The Caribbean Sea sparkled under the bright sun. Elizabeth Swann, daughter of Governor Weatherby Swann, leaned on the railing of her father's ship. They were sailing to Port Royal. Elizabeth loved the sea. She longed for adventure. Suddenly she spotted something in the water. It was a boy, unconscious, clinging to a piece of wreckage. Elizabeth called for help. The crew pulled the boy aboard. His name was Will Turner, and he was the only survivor of a pirate attack. Elizabeth nursed Will back to health. As they talked, she realized he knew a lot about pirates. He even carried a strange gold medallion. Elizabeth was drawn to Will's kindness and his mysterious past. She didn't know it yet, but their lives were about to be turned upside down. Governor Swann was a kind man, but he worried about his daughter. He wanted her to have a safe and proper life. He couldn't imagine the adventures that awaited her. He also couldn't imagine the danger that lurked beneath the surface of the seemingly calm Caribbean Sea. Port Royal bustled with activity. Governor Swann was hosting a ceremony for Captain Norrington. The captain was being promoted. Elizabeth stood beside her father, her mind far away. She couldn't stop thinking about Will and the gold medallion. As the ceremony began, a pirate ship suddenly appeared in the harbor. It was the Black Pearl, a fearsome vessel with black sails. Pirates swarmed ashore, led by the infamous Captain Jack Sparrow. Sparrow was a cunning pirate with a taste for rum and trouble. He had come to Port Royal for one reason, to reclaim his ship. The Black Pearl had been taken from him years ago by his mutinous first mate Barbossa. Now Barbossa was back, and he was after something Elizabeth possessed. The pirates attacked, creating chaos in the streets. Elizabeth watched in horror as Captain Norrington and his men were quickly overwhelmed. She tried to run, but it was too late. A pirate grabbed her and dragged her towards the harbor. Elizabeth screamed for help, but no one could hear her over the sounds of battle. Elizabeth found herself aboard the Black Pearl. The pirates were a fearsome sight, with their scars, tattoos, and wicked grins. She was brought before Captain Barbossa. Barbossa was a tall, imposing figure with a long black beard. He spoke with a chilling calmness that sent shivers down Elizabeth's spine. Barbossa demanded the gold medallion that Elizabeth had taken from Will. Elizabeth refused. She didn't know why the medallion was so important, but she wouldn't give it to these monsters. Barbossa laughed cruelly. He revealed a shocking secret. He and his crew were cursed. They were undead, unable to feel any pleasure or pain. They were bound to the Black Pearl forever. The gold medallion, Barbossa explained, was key to breaking the curse. It was one of many pieces of Aztec gold that they had stolen years ago. The gold had cursed them. To break the curse, they needed to return all the gold, along with a blood offering from someone who knew of their plight. Elizabeth realized with horror that they believed she was the descendant of a pirate. Her blood was the key to their salvation. Will Turner refused to let Elizabeth face the pirates alone. He knew about the curse of the Black Pearl. The gold medallion Elizabeth had taken was the key to breaking it. Will found Jack Sparrow locked up. Sparrow had been captain of the Black Pearl before Barbossa. Will made a deal with Sparrow. He would help Sparrow escape if Sparrow helped him rescue Elizabeth. Sparrow agreed. Together, they stole a ship and set sail in pursuit of the Black Pearl. Sparrow navigated through treacherous waters with ease. Will was amazed by Sparrow's skills but didn't fully trust him. He knew Sparrow was only interested in getting his ship back. Section 5. The Crew of the Interceptor. Will and Sparrow needed a crew to take on the Black Pearl. They sailed to Tortuga, a haven for pirates and cutthroats. The streets of Tortuga were a whirlwind of activity. Pirates gathered in taverns, brawling, drinking, and sharing tales. Sparrow knew exactly where to find the men he needed. He led Will to a ramshackle tavern called the Faithful Bride. Inside they found a motley crew of intimidating pirates. Sparrow persuaded the crew to join him with promises of gold and glory. He assured them they would be handsomely rewarded. Will was determined to do whatever it took to get Elizabeth back. Section 6. On to Isla de Muerta. With a crew assembled, Sparrow and Will set sail for Isla de Muerta. This was the island where Barbossa and his crew were hiding. It was a place of legend, shrouded in mist and mystery. The Black Pearl was anchored off the coast of the island. Barbossa was performing the ritual to lift the curse. He believed Elizabeth was the key. Sparrow, Will, and the crew snuck onto the island. They fought their way through booby traps and ambushes. The pirates of the Black Pearl were a formidable force, but Sparrow's crew fought bravely. They knew that the fate of Elizabeth and perhaps the entire Caribbean rested on their shoulders. Will was determined to reach Elizabeth before it was too late. He fought with a ferocity he never knew he possessed. He had to save her from the curse and from Barbossa's clutches. The island seemed to close in around them as they made their way towards the heart of the pirate's lair. Section 7. Lifting the Curse. Will burst into the chamber where Barbossa was performing the ritual. Elizabeth was tied to an altar, her blood dripping onto the pile of Aztec gold. Barbossa raised his arms in triumph, but his victory was short-lived. Will challenged him to a duel, distracting him long enough for Jack to intervene. Sparrow had secretly palmed 2 of the gold medallions. He tossed one to Will, who cut his hand and dropped his blood onto the pile of treasure. Sparrow, in a daring move, dropped his own blood onto the last remaining piece of gold. He then shot Barbossa. The curse was lifted. The moonlight that had illuminated the pirates with an eerie glow vanished, and they collapsed, finally mortal once more. Elizabeth rushed to Will's side, her heart pounding. They embraced, relieved and overjoyed. They had faced unimaginable danger together and emerged victorious. But their ordeal was far from over. Section 8. The Price of Freedom. Captain Jack Sparrow, true to his nature, had planned for every eventuality. He had used the chaos of the curse breaking to his advantage. He had reclaimed his beloved Black Pearl, but his triumph was short-lived. Captain Norrington and the Royal Navy had arrived at Isla de Muerta. They surrounded the island, ready to capture Sparrow and his crew. Sparrow knew he couldn't outrun the Navy forever. He had escaped the gallows once before, but he wasn't sure he could do it again. He stood on the deck of the Black Pearl, watching as Norrington's ships approached. He had a choice to make. He could surrender and face the consequences, or he could fight and risk everything. Sparrow took a deep breath, the salty air filling his lungs. He wasn't ready to give up his freedom just yet. He had come too far, faced too much, to surrender now. He raised his head, a mischievous glint in his eye, and issued a command. "On my mark," he shouted to his crew, "set sail for open waters." Section 9. Declarations of Love. Will and Elizabeth stood on the shores of Isla de Muerta, watching as the Black Pearl sailed away. They were safe, but their hearts were heavy. They had grown close to Sparrow during their adventure. They knew he was a pirate, but they had also seen his good qualities, his bravery, his cunning, and his unwavering loyalty to his friends. As they stood there, watching the Black Pearl disappear into the horizon, Will turned to Elizabeth. He had something to say, something he had been wanting to tell her for a long time. "Elizabeth," he began, his voice trembling slightly. He paused, unsure how to continue. Elizabeth looked at Will, her heart pounding. She knew what he was going to say. She had been hoping for it, longing for it. "Will," she whispered, her eyes shining with unshed tears. "I love you too." And with that, they embraced, their lips meeting in a kiss that sealed their love and their destiny. Section 10. The Black Pearl sails on. The Black Pearl cut through the waves, leaving Isla de Muerta behind. Captain Jack Sparrow stood at the helm, a satisfied grin on his face. He had escaped the clutches of the Royal Navy once again. He was free to sail the seas, to seek out adventure and treasure. But as he looked out at the vast expanse of the ocean, he felt a twinge of loneliness. He had made friends, true friends, during his quest to reclaim the Black Pearl. Will Turner and Elizabeth Swann had shown him that there was more to life than rum, gold, and the open sea. They had reminded him of what it meant to fight for something, to believe in something bigger than himself. Sparrow missed their company already. He missed Will's earnestness and Elizabeth's spirit. But he knew that their paths were different. They had their lives, and he had his. He was a pirate, and the sea was his home. Section 11. A new adventure begins. As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting long shadows across the deck of the Black Pearl, Jack Sparrow raised his spyglass to his eye. He scanned the horizon, searching for any sign of land, any sign of trouble, any sign of adventure. He was a pirate, and he had a feeling that his adventures were far from over. He had a ship, a crew, and a whole ocean of possibilities ahead of him. He could sail to Tortuga, resupply, and recruit more crewmates. He could chart a course for uncharted waters, seeking out new islands and hidden treasures. He could even, if he was feeling particularly bold, challenge the East India Trading Company itself. Sparrow smiled, a wide, mischievous grin that spoke of endless possibilities and daring escapades. He had faced death and emerged victorious. He had outwitted the Royal Navy and reclaimed his beloved Black Pearl. He was Captain Jack Sparrow, and he was ready for whatever the seven seas could throw at him. The Black Pearl surged forward, her sails billowing in the wind, carrying her captain and crew towards their next grand adventure.